Welcome in to the 6th episode of Well Read, Well Said. Kaylee is off this week. She is on vacation, so we have Carmen here. She is one of our digital content producers, and she really helps us out on the Facebook page as well. So welcome. Show off the book that we're reading that we just finished. We've been talking about this on our Facebook page. We have about 1,700 people in there. We've got discussions, polls up that you can weigh in on, so just search Well Read, Well Said. A WTOL 11 Plus book club on Facebook. Before we get into this book, we do want to highlight another book club in our area. We know there are a lot of them. We talked about Alexis's book club. This one is called the Cover Girls Book Club with several members who work here at WTOL 11. Some of our coworkers started this book club a few years ago. They even did a special book club on the road, which I think sounds awesome. And it's now turned into an annual.
Oh my gosh,
trip.
Look at that.
Wouldn't it be fun if we could go to the Isle of Amberley?
I don't know if I want to go there. I don't want to go there.
I mean, it could be a little bit interesting for a
fit
brief
in, though.
stay.
Yeah, well, we are all women. So.
Yeah, we'd fit in.
That is true. They wouldn't be after us, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Okay, we want to introduce our trivia question. Let you ponder this for a while, let it marinate, and then we'll give you the answer later. In one of Alice Feeney's novels, she is the author of this book, the story is told through multiple perspectives, including a BBC newsreader and a murder suspect. That's intriguing. Which book features this unique narrative structure, blending media transcripts with first-person accounts? And here are your choices. A, I Know Who You Are. B, His and Hers. C, Daisy Darker, and D, Good Bad Girl. So ponder that, and we'll give you the answer coming up a little later. This is the episode where we're doing the deep dive into the book. We're going to be talking about our thoughts and feelings about it, and there will be spoilers. So if you've not finished the book or you really don't want to have things spoiled, come back and watch this episode once you're finished. So let's talk about initial thoughts. Alexis, go. What'd you think?
Oh, yeah, right on the spot. I liked it. It was a quick read. It took a little bit to get into it, but that's like every book, give it a few chapters. But it did catch me pretty close to like the first couple chapters. I was like, this is going to be interesting. Like, I want to know what happened. So I knew I was going to like actually want to read it, unlike some of the other books that we had so far. Kept me guessing. Kept me guessing. And then I tried to predict, and all my predictions were completely wrong. So that's a sign of a good book, I think. I didn't know what was coming next.
Carmen?
So I liked the first 2/3 of the book. I thought, like, for the most part, I was intrigued, and I really liked the Scotland, very spooky, sort of mysterious vibes. But I think my opinion of it sort of tanked towards the end. But I'll get into that later.
Okay, that's fair.
That's not to say it's a total wash by any means.
That's fair. A lot of people tank with the ending, you know, with many books.
You're not happy with it,
Megan.
I enjoyed this book. I listened to it, which I felt like was a completely different experience than just like I reading it.
So they had British accents and Scottish too?
And there were sounds. I listened to half of it too.
Effects too.
It was good. It was
like a radio play.
Yeah, it had like the crackle of the walkie-talkie.
Ooh, I like that.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, and so when I first started it, it caught my attention right off the bat, and like you said, it kept me guessing. None of the things that I thought were going to happen happened. So I overall thought this was a really interesting book.
I finished it last night, and then I got on Reddit because, and I don't mind this with a book. I had to figure out what just happened here, which I think is okay.
Does that to you?
I think that's okay because a psychological thriller, I do that with movies too, that because it moves fast and it's psychological.
And sometimes you miss things or you don't catch things right away.
Yeah, so here is some of what our Facebook audience thought about this. Christine says she's really enjoying the book. Stephanie says, agrees with Megan and Alexis that the audio version was fantastic.
So good.
And Lorianne says she is finished with it and she was on the edge the whole time until the end.
Until the end.
So that was great. Okay, so when we come back, we are going to be getting into the meat of the discussion, the themes, the characters, what we thought about the ending. So stay with us. Well read, well said. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back into Well Read, Well Said. We've been discussing Alice Feeney's Beautiful Ugly, Show It Off. So this is,
That's the island,
that's the
right?
island,
Yeah.
okay. And all the choppy water, you cannot leave that island.
Nope.
Okay, we're gonna get into the nitty gritty details of the book. Let's take a look right now at our trivia question one more time. In one of Alice Feeney's novels, the story is told through multiple perspectives, including a BBC newsreader and a murder suspect. Which book features this unique narrative structure, blending media transcripts with first-person accounts? Here are the choices once more. A, I Know Who You Are. B, His and Hers. C, Daisy Darker. And D, Good Bad Girl.
I feel like they all sound really interesting. Like I want to add them to my TBR.
I think I just read a script on our actual news shows about this. Isn't this Daisy Darker in the Amazon best book list somewhere?
Maybe.
I think it is.
I think so.
I've heard
I'm
of
gonna
it.
say it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about this book. I'm gonna set it up. It's a psychological thriller, as we've discussed. It's set on this eerie Scottish island that maybe you can get to, but only certain times a year. And it seems like one of the main characters, Sandy, is like checking you out before she allows
Weird
you on.
vibes right away.
Yeah.
We don't know, nobody knows when the boat comes and goes. It could be,
There's
it's just
no
at her
set
whim. Maybe you're
schedule.
not allowed to leave. It depends on what Sandy thinks about you. And so the novel really centers on this couple, Grady Green. He's a best-selling novelist, and he's married to Abby, who's an investigative journalist. And she vanished under mysterious circumstances. So there was allegedly she's driving home from work. They're having a little bit of marital problems that you don't really know how deep they are. She finds someone in the road who appears to be in trouble, and then nobody ever sees her again.
Right.
He goes into this deep despair. He
For a
has a lot
year.
of mental
Right,
issues.
yeah.
His life just crumbles. And his agent, who is Abby's godmother, Kitty, says, this author passed away and he left me his island home. I think you'll really get back into writing. You'll pick up the pieces. And so I want you to go there and write. And that's where we land on Amberley. And everything starts to
Unravel.
unravel and unfold. Okay, so reality versus perception here. That's one theme. He's drinking this tea this woman gave him on the island. He's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
So we don't really know.
Not sleeping.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
hallucinating.
What's
things.
real and what's
he
not.
sees Abby all the time. He thinks he does, and it's not her.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you believe? Is he seeing her? Is he not seeing her?
Right. His mind is playing tricks on him. And it really set him up to be an unreliable narrator because you don't know what's true, what's not, what's reality.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it reminded me a little bit of Stephen King's Insomnia, which I tried reading like 10 years ago, never finished it because it made me so sleepy to read, like the way that he described his insomnia, and as it progresses and he starts hallucinating, things like that, it just reminded me a lot of that.
Well, and I think too, some of the hallucinations you start to think, one in particular, he thought there was someone under the bed.
Yeah,
Yes.
that
that
honestly, that
creeped me
was
out.
my favorite part of the novel. That was my favorite part.
Okay.
Was because I legitimately was like, where is this going? I thought it was
Yeah.
we were going far off in left field. That it was turning into like a
murder
sci-fi
or something.
kind of thing. I
Because
thought
of a
that it was.
tree
I
or
thought it was
something.
real.
Well, he establishes that it's a hallucination,
Yeah.
but later when we find out who all these people are that have been basically messing with him,
Yeah.
then you
The
go back to
dream
maybe
girl,
it
was
really
it?
did happen.
Yeah. So unreliable narrator, absolutely, for the entirety of the text. And I think by the end of it, of course, we really learn how unreliable he really is. And I'm sure we all have thoughts about that.
Yeah, there were a couple things that stood out to me. I don't know why, but out of all of the things in the book, one of the things that I recall my mouth dropping over was that he's like, yeah, I got a vasectomy.
I was like,
Okay.
I know you have to fill out your wife has to fill out a form
there's
before
a
you can
whole
do that.
thing.
That's
Yeah.
that's why, and I feel like we'll probably get into this a little bit. There were a couple moments that I felt were a little goofy, and that was one of them. because it was just kind of came in a little bit later as opposed to being slightly alluded to earlier or something. And then the same with when towards the very end of the story when Kitty's like, no, you dolt, she got IVF treatment. So I was like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think, you know, I don't know if we want to get into criticisms now, but I think that the explanation for Grady actually wanting to kill Abby was very underdeveloped. It just kind of came out of left field. Oh, I thought she was going to leave me. Well, there's plenty of things you can do, as Kitty points out.
Pushing her off a cliff.
I felt like we could have gotten into his thinking and mind a little bit more on that.
Yeah,
Why he decided to go there with it.
Grady sort of oscillates between being an extremely introspective character. There's whole passages where he's like, this is exactly what my fear of abandonment is about. Whereas I think that it would have aided in his development as an unreliable narrator, excuse me, if he had spoken more to the extent, about like, no, I'm not scared of abandonment. Abby loves me so much. I have no idea why this would happen, you know, lying to himself more, but he spent a lot of time understanding his own emotions in a way that I think was in direct conflict with how he actually behaved in the text.
What about one of the other criticisms I had for it, and I think to Carmen's point about changing the way you think of the book when you get to the end because it is such a twist. Some of the criticism about how could he have posed as the woman in the road if he was on the phone with her the entire time?
Yeah, just like awkwardly laying down, like, oh my gosh, I'm a New York Times bestseller, and then she's like, and then
Don't
she's
get
like,
out of the
don't get
car.
out. I think that convenient is a word sometimes used to that I would use to describe that. I don't know. But.
Megan, did that occur to you at all?
It did a little
that
bit.
Was just a little jarring.
My jaw dropped, and I was like,
oh.
holy. And I was like, did that just happen? Did I just read
Meaning that we thought
Like he
this
did it?
entire book that she disappeared and he's looking for her, but really he was looking for her because he thought he killed her.
Right.
Yeah, and wanted to make sure he had.
Well, because the whole time you're having her like little snippets of her talking to like the therapist, it's making you think, oh, she's just gonna
But
leave
that's
us.
not her.
I know. And then you're like, what?
I know. I like sat there at the chapter when we learned who Abby actually was, and I think the Abby flashbacks, some of them are actually Abby.
Yes.
And some of them are Kitty.
And I had that's something I learned on Reddit. that didn't quite make it to me.
That didn't make it to me until you told me that this morning, and I was like, you're right. It wasn't her the whole time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like it was a little bit hard to distinguish what was Abby and what was Kitty.
Yeah.
But that was the twist that I didn't see coming. I didn't see, him trying to kill Abby and then Abby and Kitty setting him all up. And he is just a walking red flag. He made questionable decision after questionable decision that I was like, my bro, what are you doing? Why did you do this?
Like leaving Sandy to like get washed away.
Yeah.
It was like their
stealing
last
the
straw.
manuscript.
That was like, he's gonna
You
do
knew
it.
that was going to happen, but like, why, bro?
I thought that the drowning thing of Sandy, I didn't think that was. I thought she was just basically saying like, go on.
Yeah, that's what I
didn't
thought
think
too.
that he
They
should
were
have
like,
any responsibility
they were
for
like,
that.
you left her there, and I was like, I don't think he could have done anything.
No.
What was he going to do? Like drag her out,
Right.
or maybe get
Just the
help?
test.
Because they did ask him, "Have you seen Sandy?" And he said no.
no.
So
And
I
that
think
was,
that's
like, how he failed.
That's different.
Yeah.
I did also have sort of a question about like he was really paranoid that Sandy would have told a bunch of people that he stole the book, and we learned later, of course, that they are monitoring his every move. But assuming that they weren't, and he at this point that he didn't know that. I mean, why would Sandy, is she just like an avid reader and like gets all the books from the mainland or something? Like he could have, with a reasonable doubt, thought maybe that she wouldn't have ever even read his book and he could have gotten away with it,
One of the things I thought that crossed my mind too was when Kitty is negotiating with Grady about here's how it's going to go, you're going to stay on this island, you're going to continue to write books. I thought, well, why can't he just go back to London and write books? Because if they don't want him here, and he thinks they're all psychos, he could just send his money back here. Maybe that's me being too rational in a psychological thriller.
Well, but
tell
then
somebody.
he could have told somebody and gotten
save
the
me.
cops involved.
They
And
also could have just left him there to keep writing books. They didn't have to off him.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's so funny that why couldn't they have found like a woman writer? They don't want men on the island. They just find a woman.
Then we wouldn't have a book,
I
right?
guess. Okay,
Then
sure.
we wouldn't have a book.
Willing suspension of disbelief. It's like writing, not a very lucrative career. Like, I don't know. That's again.
There's probably other ways.
Willing suspension, for when you're reading, sometimes you have to say, okay, well, not always the most obvious and most logical thing happens. You have to suspend your disbelief.
So what did we think about the book? And then I'll say, where does the island go from here now that their,
Making
moneymaker is gone?
Well, now that they've offed Grady, are they just going to get
Like, just
another
another
guy
guy,
writer to
some-
move on the island and write a book and become a bestseller?
Kitty's
Well, first
just
of all,
like
what
the
did you think about
recruiter.
the way that it ended? That they buried him alive.
I
surprised.
thought that was shocking, but also maybe this is just me, but I thought he got off way too easy and he didn't suffer enough after everything that he
But
did.
he said that his greatest fear was being buried alive.
But why would, I mean, again, like, why do they have to kill him if, like, they finally got what they wanted from him? But I agree that now that we're talking about this, I'm starting to see these red flags from Grady and what kind of, he's almost a little psychopathic, because there would be these passages where he's, like, when he was talking about the priest lady and he's, like, could not get over how beautiful she was, and he, like, dropped his wedding ring off, and that, now I forgot about that, because I was like, okay, weirdo, like, you spend all this time bemoaning your wife's disappearance, and now you have this ring. Anyway, we're talking about the ending, but anyway, but yeah, maybe you're right, like, maybe he is a worse man than, of course, he lets on in his own perspective.
Yeah, I think we figured that out with the fact that he killed her. But I don't think we can really talk about the ending or really any of this without talking about the children. The children who drowned. I mean, that was the whole reason why
They
hate men, all these women on the island, why they formed this little, he calls it a cult. I mean, I think you can look at it that way.
Yeah.
So we have to talk about that being one of the main themes, I think, as well, is that these children followed who ends up to be Abby, the wife. When she was a kid, she was living on this island, and she went out because a male teacher had approached her inappropriately. Her friend, who was Sandy's daughter, follows her. Then all the kids follow, and she was the only survivor.
They went really far extreme to, like, this one person did this, now we hate all men. We're gonna kill any man who does us wrong. And no men allowed.
It kind of reminded me of like Greek mythology a little bit. And was it the Amazonian? Who were the tribe of women that like lived on the island and hated men? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Maybe the Amazons, I'm not really sure, but
It's something.
Yeah.
But it gave me those kind of vibes that they're living on this island, that they hate men, they don't, want to include men in anything besides, hey, write us a best-selling book.
So random.
We can live our weird life.
Island life.
Okay, so let's talk about the ratings. We do this on a scale, solid numbers, no halves, which came up as debate in a couple of our text messages. Some of us wanted to give it a half.
Karma with a 2 there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we
gotta.
did 4,
Yeah.
and Carmen gave it a 2.
Okay, what was so wrong about the ending? Was it the ending for you?
So I think that a mystery novel, from how I understand it, or a thriller where something is to be solved, should have you, when there's the twist or the reveal, you should be saying, oh, and a lot of things make sense. It shouldn't be, what? And then you...
And then you have to Google like I did, or
to me,
it.
that is sort of a cheap way of finding a shock that will, I did feel like shocked, and I guess I felt something, so that's good. But I also felt like it had all of these things in the book and accumulated all this narrative debt, and then didn't make good on its promises. So you get. You should. It's sort of a double-edged sword. You shouldn't be able to predict the ending of a mystery, but you should be able to go back and predict it.
Piece it back together.
Right, and I do think the more we talk about it, I think that, like I also said to Megan, I think I probably would have given it a 2.5 as opposed to a 2. But I think that like the more we talk about it, the more small things I'm picking up on that Grady is like kind of weird. But there was a lot of unanswered things that I think didn't function as red herrings, but they also didn't serve anything in the end, like the trees. Like, we didn't get anything from them.
I know they kept talking.
Yeah,
about
the
it,
trees,
too.
and they're like
the
birds. Actually, I think the birds are a metaphor for the men, because they were like, the birds kept coming back and they were destroying the trees.
And the bird on the
So-
piano or something like that. Wasn't there like a bird on the
Yeah, I
piano?
think so.
Oh,
And the kitty, wasn't it, had the issue with the piano teacher when she was
Yes.
younger, who
So,
was a male.
Wait,
Yes.
maybe the birds represent women. No, the birds
Men.
represent men.
Men.
And the trees
represent
represent women.
Yeah. And
They're
so
thriving.
Yeah.
I think there could be something to that. I'm going to
Yeah.
Reddit that right now. Okay,
look it
let's
up.
talk about the secret message in the book that was revealed. So when you're done reading, maybe you've already read the first word of each chapter in order of chapters 1 through 14. Spell out from Grady, if you are reading this, I am trapped on the island, please help me. And this is the reason why he was eventually buried alive, because the women put an end to it. They don't want anyone coming to the island, and
so presumably the readers figured out the secret.
presumably the
Presumably.
women figured out that he sent the message
Okay.
in that form in the book and sent that secret message. So that's why they killed him.
I thought that was a cool little nod that the author put the secret
back in there.
message
Yeah.
from Grady in the actual book. And so when I was doing my research for this episode and discovered that from our Facebook group, I was like, hey, that's actually,
actually
really
did it.
cool and
Oh,
really
okay.
creative.
Makes sense why they killed him then.
Yeah.
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 We all didn't. What do we feel about the island? It would be a good place to visit when the tourists are there, maybe in the summer.
Yeah.
As long as you can get off of it. I don't want to be stuck there.
Yeah.
Sounds beautiful.
I thought the island sounded really pretty, but like there were like the no birds and then the trees
Weird.
and the fact that it's all women, but they have like names that could be for a man or a woman. You know, I thought it was
I didn't even realize
I
that.
didn't even
Yeah.
realize it was all women, that
I
we
didn't
didn't see
either.
any men until it was pointed out.
Well, until like she was married to a woman, and I was like, oh, and then.
But
and then
I
they
did
kept
think
talking
that
about
the island itself could kind of be a character in the
Yes.
book.
Oh yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it built, I think the island also built some suspense. Obviously, there were some spooky things happening there. He talked about living on the edge of the cliff. And then obviously the cave or whatever where the children all died and where
Yeah.
Sandy
Kids
went
and-
was a big
Weird.
point there.
I remember when I was reading and picking up on different things about the island, I was writing in my Kindle, what does this mean? Like little questions to myself. And I'm like, what is the significance of
Like the
this?
birds and the trees
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
I think we did
edge.
land on something with the birds. I do think
It
so.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go Carmen for that.
What was did you have any, you, Carmen, said that you had some emotional response there. What were your biggest significant moments with that?
Yeah, I guess with the tree man coming out from underneath the bed, that was scary. I was really shocked there. And then I did think that when we found out that Abby was Abby, or Kitty was Abby rather, I did sort of like, it gave me pause. Like I had to like look at the page for a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think too, I noticed when they were reunited, I'm like, why is Abby being so cold to him? Why is she being
Yeah.
so
I
nasty
thought it was
to
a
him?
twin situation for a long time.
Really?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, she just
She
has
was
a twin.
telling me
she
that,
totally
and
has
I
a
was
twin.
like-
I was like, these are my predictions, and I was obviously completely way off.
She was telling me as we would get to work, she's like, oh, I'm reading, and this is my prediction about the twins,
She's
and
all
I
like-
had already finished, and I was like,
Okay.
you gotta keep reading.
I do think, though, again, I go back to, we heard so much about her being angry with him and just the way that she spoke to him when she finally revealed herself to him. And again, that points me back to the reason that he wanted her dead should have been more explained and developed.
Yeah.
rather
Like maybe
than-
she had done something actually bad or something.
It didn't seem
Not
like she
that we-
did.
Yeah, not that it was
Just like
just
she was
well-
falling out of love with him a little
And
bit.
here's the realism in me. If you had both just communicated your wants and your needs, you would
We're
have
being
gotten
too
divorced,
realistic,
and
right.
Then there would be no book.
then there would be no book.
Right.
Conflict
Right.
is the source of all.
It's just like when you're watching the movie and you're like, don't go, like,
Don't go to the basement with the chainsaw.
Don't run through the
that.
woods in the dark.
Yeah.
Anything that you felt was very unsettling or poignant
I
in the
think
book?
some of the reveals at the end, that he got the vasectomy, she'd gone through IVF and was pregnant. I feel like the last 75, 100 pages of the book, I just kept saying, oh my God, I need to find out what happens. And I
When
just
they were like
kept
all in the
reading.
church and they're all there
Yeah.
like watching him.
Oh,
Like, what is
yeah.
happening right now?
To Feeney's credit, it's a page turner.
Yeah,
It is.
Yeah.
It is. So
You're just
I thought,
confused about what is happening.
Yeah,
and
but
the ending, I didn't predict them killing him. I thought they would have
used him.
given him a false sense of relief, oh, I can keep writing books and they'll keep me alive, and then they,
No, they mean business
buried
over
him.
there.
Yeah.
Well,
All
they
right.
did that to the other author. I think they kept him there as long as they could until he killed himself, and then he
Right.
couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
all right, coming up, we are going to reveal our new book. We
And the
are
trivia
going to give you the answer to the trivia question. So stay with us on Well Read, Well Said. Welcome back into Well Read, Well Said. Now is the time you've all been waiting for, the answer to the trivia question. The question was, in one of Alice Feeney's novels, the story is told through multiple perspectives, including a BBC newsreader and a murder suspect. Which book features this unique narrative structure, blending media transcripts with first-person accounts? The answer is His and Hers.
That's a book that I've read.
You've read it?
I've read it, and I'm pretty sure I rated it a 4. It was really good. So if you're into a mystery thriller and you want another
I
one
kind
of
of want to
hers,
read more of her books for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, I do too.
Okay, well, we've discussed the latest book. I think this is the most exciting part. It's time for us to pick the genre of our next book. And as if you've not, we should have had a drinking game for the name Abby on this episode. Because we're now joined with Abby Lesnowitz and Abigail Sullivan from the Harris Elmore Library. I think that's perfect. We couldn't have asked for anything better.
Dynamic duo.
Dynamic duo.
We're excited to have you guys here, so thanks for joining
Thanks
us.
for having us.
Okay, so we're gonna pick the next genre.
The wheel
We've
is
got a
behind
wheel.
us.
Have you met our wheel?
This is our wheel.
So we've got self-help, literary fiction, biography, fantasy.
You better
These
pick a
ladies,
good one.
yeah, these-
Oh, boy.
Okay, so let's spin that wheel.
Oh boy, what's it gonna be?
Well, it's not really.
Oh boy.
Mel's
Very
not.
excited for that.
No,
Megan's
I'm
excited.
I am.
Okay, so this is gonna be like unicorns and wizards and stuff,
not
like
exactly.
doing boom booms and things. Like, isn't that what fantasy
boom,
is?
sorry.
I mean, I've
Welcome to
done
the book
Colleen
club.
Hoover stuff, but not fantasy. This is gonna be like
Not all
Fantasy.
fantasies boom booms. There's just some boom booms.
I mean,
there's
like
gonna be, like,
subgenres like
goblins and
romantasy,
yes.
where it's more romance focused. But there are some like high-end fantasy novels, which we have a couple here.
Okay, so give us the options. What do we usually give people? Three give three
choices.
choices.
Yes.
Okay, well, tell us about each of these as we
Okay,
spin
so
here.
we have The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. So this is a world inspired by the history and epics of India. in which a captive princess and a maidservant in possession of forbidden magic become unlikely allies on a dark journey to save their empire.
That's definitely
sounds
going to have
fun.
some romance.
Yes. Okay, that one does have some romance.
Let me do the next one.
Sure.
Okay, I've read this one and I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
It's Voyage of the Damned by Frances White. It's a murder mystery set on a ship of magically blessed individuals where the protagonist Dee must uncover a killer amidst the political rivalries and secrets of the other passengers.
See, that one would be, yeah,
sounds
I like that
interesting.
one.
It's got a little romance
I
in
like
there
the
too.
mystery.
I
That
like
makes me
that.
happy.
It's a little bit of everything, yeah.
And it's got crime.
Yeah, and it's not too highbrow for you to understand like all of
Okay.
this world building.
Yeah, we
oh
don't
my gosh,
have
yeah.
time for all that.
Yes.
Yeah.
The next one is on my TBR. So
Oh, really? A Darker
oh.
Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. She
Okay.
is very much like the queen of fantasy. But she has a dazzling world of parallel Londons where magic thrives, starves, or lies forgotten, and where power can destroy just as quickly as it can create.
I'm excited.
This is like one of my favorite books ever.
Really?
The
That leaves
trilogy.
a lot to
Oh,
the
it's a trilogy.
imagination.
Now I'm gonna have to
Yes.
read 3 books.
Oh, yeah.
And then she came out with another book that's set in the same world, and I
Okay.
took the whole day off to finish it. It was
love
my,
that.
it was my
I love
birthday
that
a couple
for you.
years
That's
ago,
true.
so
I
can
love that.
attest.
Are you ready to
respect that.
spin?
I think so.
Everybody? Okay, let's spin that wheel. Sounds like they're all good options, to
Yeah.
be honest. Oh, your favorite favorite.
Yes.
This is the Londons, the 2
Yes,
Londons.
yes,
Okay.
that is a
Okay.
good
so
choice.
excited.
The-
Magic,
A
right?
Darker
Yes.
Shade
Okay.
of Magic by V.E. Schwab. That is the book, so get it from the library.
Yes,
You can get it
physical,
on the
hard
app.
copy, yep, ebooks, audiobooks, we have it all.
Yay.
Love that.
Abigail, thank you for helping us out. I think we picked a winner. I think it'll be a good
Excited.
one.
I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it.
All right, and we'll post everything, what we're reading here in the WTOL 11 Plus Well Read, Well Said Facebook group. You can always watch anytime on WTOL 11 Plus, but join us as we read together on Facebook. We'll try to do some fun things, and we'll see you back here next time.
Do da 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 do da da do.